Hello, and welcome back to Farm Stands of Mill Bay for another episode of our documentary. This series is dedicated to discovering what goes into bringing fresh, nutritious, locally grown food to the lucky residents of our oceanside farming community. Today we're going to meet Don and Tracey and learn how they pool their resources and learn together to prepare for many farming challenges, including pests and extreme weather conditions. Come along.
Good. Welcome to the farm stand. Are you looking for anything particular today? The farm stand we have here open every day from 11 till 7. So we keep it closer to us, and we also want to meet our clients. So we're usually out working in the field, so we keep it down there. But on Saturdays we bring it out to the end of the road and we stand here and get to meet our clients. So it's really important. We want people to understand how we grow our food because we grow it with no pesticides, no chemicals, no fertilizers, because we believe in that. And I think once you know where your food is grown, I think that makes a big difference. We have the mixed lettuce, so this is for making salad.
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. We've got zucchinis, they're all $1 each, so regardless of the size. We've got onions, those are fresh onions,
And how much are these?
They're $3. These are $1.50, and those two big ones are $2.50 each. And then the cherries, tomatoes are $4 a pint. So we can get you a bag.
Yeah.
So you can pay by cash or e-transfer. So that's, we got 4, that's 6, 9, 12, and 2 is $14.
I'll take these baby carrots. They're laughing at me.
Oh, you want those baby
I
carrots?
want them too, yeah.
Okay, great.
They're just
Carrots are desperately trying to grow, but because they can't get the right direction, they just grow in crazy shapes.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
the kids seem to love them, so we call those kids carrots. We're actually working to try and minimize ground compaction.
Yeah.
But this was our first crop, and as first-time farmers, we're just going with it. So
Throw those in there for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's $14 altogether.
14, no, wow,
And we harvest mostly everything the same day, definitely within 2 days. So, food loses its nutrition once it comes out of the ground, once it's picked. So we want people to have the maximum nutrition when they're eating their food too. So we'd much rather people come more frequently and get what they need and then eat it and then come back, because then they're getting the best nutrition in what they're eating.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Between the two of us, we have 7 kids. So
All grown up.
Yes,
Like
yes.
23 to 30.
yes,
It's one big puzzle. You're going from, you're trying to figure out the turnover, crop rotation. You have, hey, peanuts, stop it. You have to think about what crop goes in after next, because a pea plant gives out a lot of nitrogen. So you're fixing the soil each time. So it's just one big puzzle all the time. Another thing that's good for the soil is crop cover. The rule is, if you want to have healthy soil, is it's always got to be covered. So you've either got a crop in there, or you've got a crop cover, which is you could put like alfalfa, or peas is a good one, and you just let that grow, and then it dies off, and then you let the nutrients from the plant get into the ground, or you've got a tarp over it. So we're both in our mid-50s, and that's our biggest challenge. Whereas younger people might have more of a financial challenge. For us, it's more just keeping our bodies as healthy as we can. Plant the produce that you like, because you're going to be more passionate about it in terms of selling it, and you're going to have more joy in growing it. And then if you don't sell it, you're at least going to be able to eat it and enjoy it. And each different crop has its cost. So, we look at the profitability of each crop. This one is it grows easily. It doesn't have a lot of pests. It's easy to plant and everything. The cost here is harvesting. Whereas something like lettuce, very inexpensive to harvest, but it takes a little more time to process it because you've got to wash it, let it dry, bag it. It has a different kind of cost structure. And then you look at tomatoes, which garner a good price, but you have to baby those plants for about 6 months. It's very prone to getting bugs and different diseases. You're fighting pests all the time, but they're fairly easy to harvest when they're ready. So each plant kind of has its pros and cons.
Once we've grown it, we cut it, it'll grow back, and you can get up to 3 cuttings. But that's a little bit off this year because we hit 42 degrees here. So we're going to clean the lettuce now. We're going to give it a little bath, get it all soaking. And then in order to make sure that it's actually getting agitated, we have an air bubbler system that will turn on. We'll start to get good action when it starts to rotate. You can see here. So there's bubbles in the center. And once they start to go, then I can move stuff back into the center. And the intention is to wash off any excess dirt that's been harvested and to begin the quality checks to make sure that we don't have any bugs that were on the lettuce, because that happens in an organic garden. And now we have to begin drying it. So to do that, we're going to start scooping it up into the bin. And that's what we've been trying to focus on, is that in order to build a good name in the market segment that we're working in, we need to make sure that the quality of our produce is excellent. So, and now we'll spin off the excess water. Stop that. I just shake it up so that it gets another chance. We'll do this probably 2, maybe 3 times, depending on how wet it still looks. And that's looking okay. So we're going to take that and put it on the air dryer. And this will be the final drying stage. And if we do this correctly, and we get it dry enough, because we're not trying to sell water, contrary to what some people would think, we're actually trying to get it clean, and then the drier we get it, the longer the shelf life will be. Because if it's not dry enough, as everybody knows, it'll go rotten in the bottom of the bag. And that's the last thing we want. We want the product to last a good long time in the refrigerator. So, and because the way we grow it and the way we harvest it, we get a natural salad mix. Tracey's selected all of the varieties based on their complementary tastes, so that when you make a salad, you add this, add a few bits of our cucumbers, maybe a couple of slices of tomatoes, and you got yourself a meal. We always want to give a little more. And 5.5. So that's good. So now, to make sure that the lettuce stays really fresh, we want to protect it with air. So do a little maneuver here to capture the bag, seal that air in through the tape machine, and the only thing left to do is label it. And put that on. And now that bag is nice and firm, so it keeps the lettuce from being crushed. Put that up. Lettuce is a top shelf item. So these are Indian runner ducks. And they're used for pest management, natural pest management. So because we don't want to use any fertilizer, we don't want to use any pesticides, herbicides, any of that stuff, these guys play an integral role in making sure that the bugs and the slugs and the grubs are not overwhelming the farm. The other pest that's of prevalence here is deer. And so the entire garden has a perimeter around it of fish line, which actually helps to make sure the deer don't go in, because the fish line is invisible to them, and in the darkness they can't see it, but it'll still touch them when they get near it, and that kind of freaks them out. And to date, knock on wood, we haven't actually had any deer in the garden. So we've had lots of tempting stuff out there. And then of course the dogs, despite their placid roll this morning, we have rabbits in the area, but they also are at bay because the dogs seem to be doing their job as well. So everybody's got a job to do. We load the farm stand every morning. Typically, I'm finished about 9:30, and that gives us a chance to. I put out a morning post on Facebook and let people know that it's loaded, and I'll list on it what we have on harvest. Pile it high and watch it fly. I don't know if that's going to work, but we'll see. And that's it. Put our business card up, put a lucky penny,
And
we're set up.
the honor system works.
It works 99% of the time. And I would like to think that all of our customers that are regulars, they honor us by being honorable. We've put something on the road to help make our brand a little more unique, in that we have the only antique motorcycle under our sign that is sort of a focus point, that when people are driving down the road, we've had more than one say, oh, it's where the motorcycle is. Farming of vegetables is just basically a balance between catching the plant trying to save itself and us harvesting that thing that it's using to eat it. So cucumbers is the classic, where you have to keep cutting the cucumber before it gets too large, so the plant thinks, oh, I've lost my seed, I have to grow another one so that I can save myself. And it just keeps going and going and going.
So the tomatoes, we can't begin the irrigation process until 3 hours after sunrise, and we have to end it 6 hours before sunset. So that leaves us a small window in order to do all the watering for the tomatoes, because that's our primary crop here right now. The plant dictates that. We're very much dialed into trying to make sure that the tomatoes have the watering exactly when they need it, either before the tomatoes or after the tomatoes. Because I'm a former engineer, I have a little spreadsheet that calculates the times to start and stop based on the sunrise and sunset. And that is programmed into the timers at our little timer station. And based on that, that's what controls everything here right now. So.
But they're very, very prolific. They grow extremely well. And cucumbers just love the heat. You can see in there. They have a sucker on them, so we have to take off the suckers. If you look here, this is a sucker. If we don't take that off, it'll grow up. So we take the sucker off, and then each node has a leaf, a cucumber, a fruit, and a tendril. So we take those off. And they grow about a foot every 3 or 4 days. These seeds cost $1 each, so I bought 100, and we lost about 30 of our plants to wireworms. And we planted potato traps. So we take a piece of potato, stick a skewer in it, and plant it 2 inches into the ground, and they love potatoes. So it just basically traps them into that, and we pull them each week and throw them into a bucket with some water, and then we kill them. So that's kind of the things you have to do when you're growing organically. You don't have a spray you get to do to just solve the problem. You have to think of these different things. So we use things like insect cover on the rows. And that insect cover costs about $500 for a 100-foot length. So it's not cheap. It's a big investment to grow food in a healthy way. But I can't see it doing any other way, because the synthetic fertilizers and the pesticides, they're killing the soil ultimately. So to me, it's the only way to do it. But it's every day you're just looking at, okay, what's our challenge today? And some days you beat it, and I look down and I see the cucumbers looking so awesome, and I'm happy. And then other days, when I've just planted 200 lettuce plants and I come out and they're all dead, you just kind of think, why am I doing this? But for the most part, it's fun. So this cucumber will stay fresh if you store it correctly for about 5 days. That's fresh produce, it doesn't keep the way our grocery produce does. And if you expect that, you're going to be disappointed. It hasn't been genetically modified to do that. It's just been set to grow good food. So it's not meant to sit in your fridge for 2 weeks. So you have to eat it fairly quickly. But within a couple of days, as long as you store it right. And each vegetable has a different way that it is stores well. Like, for example, tomatoes, you never put them in the fridge. People put their tomatoes in the fridge, but the flavor goes away. So you have to kind of have a bit of knowledge, and we try to share that with our clients. And we just go in and we clip the end of it, and take it out, and it's ready. Cucumbers are easy to harvest. They don't really need anything because they've been hanging, so they're nice and clean. And we just put them out on the farm stand. It's constant, vigilant looking. Another thing that we haven't done yet, but if we start having some pest problems, they suggest is once a week to spray it with peppermint oil, because those bugs don't like that smell. So everything we grow here started from seeds, except for our onion sets. Everything we grow starting from seed. When we started, because of the work that I'm involved with in my full-time job, I knew that there were supply challenges coming down the road. Plus, you just kind of knew, because last year everybody got into growing because of COVID and the food supply issues. So there was no seeds. Everybody ran out of seeds. So I made sure that we knew what we were going to grow before we even had the farm built, because I knew we had to order the seed. So we were ordering in December for stuff we were going to plant in July. So we ordered the seed, and then through other channels that we know, other farmers, we heard that people were really struggling to get the seeds for the products that they want. So they had to take their second, third, fourth choice. And when you're doing market farming, it becomes very specific in the varieties that you need to grow for your area, and that are the things that you want to grow. So if you don't get that exact seed, it can be a challenge. Add to that the fact that you want to do organic seeds, because you're growing organically, which are even harder to find, and it makes it a challenge. And even doing it in December, I didn't get everything I wanted, like my first choices. So it's always something you have to be really thinking of ahead of time. Oops, that doesn't want to go. Before you're getting it.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Tracy's insight, we wouldn't be at this point, because I wouldn't have had the foresight to have ordered the seed back in December. There's just no possible way. So between the two of us, you know, Tracy's got that gardening stuff in spades.
So what kind of government support are you aware of?
So we have the first one in BC is getting farm status. So you have to have your application in by the end of October, and you have to indicate what you're selling. And for
how much of it?
Smaller properties, you have to be able to show and that you are generating at least $10,000 of income in order to get farm status. And the application's quite daunting. You have to show like acreage, the yield, all that type of thing. So of course we were new and we didn't have that information. And they do have a bit of a status for growing farms or new farms, but we still didn't even know what we were growing. So we didn't get it in. Well, we weren't even thinking of a farm last October.
No.
But we'll get it in for this year. And it's important because once you have that farm status, then you get a lot of breaks and things like PST, your property taxes, and you've got that status to also apply for other types of federal grants and loans. And we haven't really explored a lot of those as yet because we needed to get the farm status.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing for us.
Yeah, and in order to get the farm status, so we're senior farmers. I'm 55. Tracy's older.
57.
She's my cougar. And that said, we're only able to do this at this stage of life because of the successes we've had in our past life. I ran my own engineering company for 13 years. Tracy's working in the financial industry for decades now. And without that financial backing, and the fact that we have no kids at home, between the two of us, we have 7 kids, we're able to put this together. But if you're a young family and you go down to the counselor's office at your high school and say, I'm going to be a farmer, you're just going to get laughed out of the place, because there's no way for a young person to actually be able to pick up and adopt this on their own. Like, they need the assistance of a family farm that they're working on, or all that, and they have to have the insight when they're quite young in order to do that, right? So we've managed to bridge this activity simply because of the stage of life we're at. And the fact of the matter is, most farmers that we're aware of on the YouTube settings and all that sort of stuff that we've been following are older. They're not younger. There's a couple in England started the farm when they were 60 as their retirement, and they're farming a couple acres. And so in terms of government assistance and all that, to the best of our knowledge, at this point we don't really see that there is any. So we've been building a farm by buying everything retail, and when it comes to the selling, well, we're kind of expected to sell wholesale. And it's trying to bridge that gap of what produce actually costs and how much effort goes into creating it. So I have a bad feeling that we're going to see this more in the near future with the situation going on in California with the drought and all of that. So
yeah, I find that we know there are programs available, but that farm status is really key to get started. I have seen a lot of information when we were first doing research to help people learn about farming, but we just kind of jumped in both feet and did it. And because I've been growing vegetables for 20 years, I felt like that expertise would lend itself. And then we also signed up for a master class. So we invested $2,000 in a master class. So that is all online material, as
With
well
a
as
Canadian farmer.
with a Canadian farmer in Quebec, who's known as kind of the guru of market farming. His name is Jean-Martin Fortier, and there's a collective group on Facebook, and so I can go on there and ask questions. So it's more things like refinement of, okay, what do I do with this pest, or how are you guys selling your tomatoes, how are you setting it up? So I've got that as a really good resource, which has been very helpful.
And the skills that I've brought to the party is understanding of quite a few of the engineering things that you've seen in the wash house, all the heat transfer and all that needed in order to design and build the walk-in cooler, all of the plumbing and associated activities with the irrigation, building out the greenhouses. So I'm very fortunate that I still have good physical presence, that I can build things and all that sort of stuff. So between Tracey and I, we're very complementary skill sets that allow us to be successful so far. But every day it seems like a war against the bugs. So.
And you have, like what Don said, you need to be a handyman. If you aren't handy, you're going to be struggling, because you can't afford to go out and buy every new gimme. Sometimes you've got to bootstrap things and put things together, because the economics just don't work to go buy every shiny new tool. They're out there, but the economics just aren't there to do it in year one. You kind of add to it as you go. So you've got to be strategic about how you invest your money each year. In terms of networking with other farmers, I think it's really important, because we don't have a lot of resources other than kind of the YouTube videos and stuff like that. And the context is different for different areas. How somebody farms, even in Kelowna, is very different from here. We started our farm in March, so we've been so busy building the farm, we really haven't had time to get out there and network. But I know there's the Farmers Institute in Cobble Hill, which I plan to become involved with. So in terms of networking, I think it's vital, particularly locally, because the context of what we grow and how we grow here is not the same as knowing a farmer who's in Kelowna or Quebec. So, we started this farm in March, so we've been so busy building. We really haven't had the chance to go out and network as yet, but we expect to do that. And I know the Cobble Hill Farmers Institute is an organization I'd really like to get involved with. I think there's a lot of networking at the farmers markets, but we're still trying to figure out how we're going to market our products right now. So, whether we get involved in a farmers market down the road, I can see us maybe get involved with the Cobble Hill Farmers Market, but it was canceled this year due to COVID. Yeah. So the networking is important, to be doing it locally, as well as doing it nationally, because there's some things about trends and information to know. But I find we can catch up on that through following other farmers on YouTube and podcasts. There's a lot of great podcasts. I find the people in this industry are so giving. That nobody holds trade secrets. Everybody's so willing to share and to give.
And it's largely because their contexts are different. Like, everybody's got a different market. They got different clients. They got different plants, different soil. So there's no point in trying to keep things a secret, because we all can learn from each other.
Yeah. So the networking, I think, is really vital from that local. So in the master class that we belong to, there's actually somebody in Port Alberni. He actually runs a farming school, and he and I have gotten to know each other and share, and he gave us a lot of good advice early on as well. And even just our neighbors. I had a neighbor down the street, so before we were growing, said, watch out for the wireworm. There's lots here. And she was right.
Oh yeah, they've eaten a lot of lettuce. They've eaten an awful lot of lettuce.
So it is vital. As idealistic as we are about this, at the end of the day, if we're not making enough money to cover our bills, then we're not going to last doing it. So we have to think of it from a business standpoint too, in how we do it. and that's still a work in progress, and maybe that always is in this world, because our market will change because our products will change each year because of the weather. The weather is just such a huge part of what we do. They say a farmer, the first thing he does, if he's worth his salt, is he gets up in the morning and checks the weather forecast, because
Which is why we have a weather station.
yeah, and we actually have a weather station. So it's really key. And so what we're growing this year and what's growing well this year might flop next year. And we might have other things. So the variables are just so huge, and you're constantly working with changing variables of what your product is, which is a challenge, but a fun challenge. So the heat wave that we had a few weeks back was a big challenge for any farmer around here. And you didn't really see or know the damage till really about 4 or 5 days afterwards. It didn't show up right away. But during the heat wave, we had to come out and mist these plants to keep them cool, just to keep them from frying. So we were out here, and I don't know, what did the temperature get to? 46
In the
here.
hoop house here, it hit 42. So on the worst day.
On the worst day, so we had to be out here every other hour to mist the
and we did
plants.
it in shift. We just come out for maybe 15 minutes, because in here we have the hoop house not because of sun protection or rain protection. It's actually about season extension, so that we can trap more heat earlier in the spring and later in the fall, so that we can have that going on. But the negative part of the hoop house is in the really, really hot days, it can hit extreme temperatures in here if we don't have the sides up and the doors open and all of that. So we have to be very careful to make sure the plants don't become overheated.
Yeah, so it was a lot of work for us, and we had to be out here no matter what. So what we found was that our core heat temperature of our bodies went up, and we, having just moved in, we didn't have blinds, we didn't have air conditioning, we had no basement, and it was hot. And it really took us even a few days after the heat wave to cool our bodies down. So something we've learned is we need to get an air conditioner at least in one of the rooms, or to have a way to cool ourselves down, because we have to be out no matter what. Our snow peas, we had damage, there's things we lost, but we actually did not too bad. What we found is, and you'll see it here at about this level, you can see here that anything that was blossoming at that time was just burnt off. So anything around about this level got burnt off. So we're not going to have tomatoes for that little period as a result. We had a client who's owns an apple orchard down the street, and she said she had about 50 acres, and she said half her crops were ruined because the apples were blossoming right at that time. So there's a lot of damage done to crops as a result of it. We lost a bed of lettuce, and our snow peas were dropped. We lost about 2 weeks of the harvest of that. So I consider ourselves lucky that we didn't have more damage as a result of it. But I think that this is something we have to come to live with. And, I've always bought or looked at crops and varietals that deal well in cool weather. I'm going to rethink that now and start looking at ones that actually that are more heat tolerant, because I think that that's where we're at now.
The future is going to be warmer. We had that bubble, they said, once every 7 years or 70 years or some number, and I have a feeling that's going to just be more frequent.
Yeah.
So.
But I think farmers are used to adjusting to weather. It's not like it was a big surprise for us. Where the weather just drives what we do.
So could you see yourselves into the fall?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because in the more southern places, we follow a couple of market gardeners in the Carolinas and in Kentucky, and they actually stop farming in July. Growing lettuce in the summer, as much as we love a summer salad, growing lettuce in the heat is extremely hard, because it thinks it's dying, so it bolts, and we end up with the plant going to seed, and the leaves turn a little bit sour, and just not a good product anymore. So in the deep south, those guys actually don't farm in the summer. They take a month off.
From lettuce.
From lettuce and a few other crops. Kale is one of them that struggles with as well. But you know, that could be our future. I just don't know. We have to pay more attention as it's going along to see what we rely on our Weather Channel guys there to tell us what the future is going to be like when they give us the spring forecast. And those guys, they actually don't even have to get it right or wrong. They still get paid.
What about the Farmer's Almanac?
We actually bought it. We bought it. We bought it.
We bought one.
And I actually went back and looked at it,
It's
and they
wrong.
did not predict the heat wave at all.
No.
So maybe the Farmer's Almanac needs to adjust for global warming.
Yeah.
No, I think that, you know, in terms of season extension, that's a goal of ours. You know, it's smart from a business standpoint, because if you're selling a vegetable that no one else has, you can command a higher price. Now, we've decided that we want to charge a fair price. We don't ever want to gouge people, because we want people to have good produce. So we want to keep it consistent. But having it means it drives demand, and we get it. So that's a goal for us to do that, in terms of having things early and then going into the winter.
Yeah, we're not looking to get rich off of every plant we sell. So.
No, but you know, our plan right now is to be having produce harvesting for 11 months of the year, and to hopefully leave here for a month in January and have a break and have a rest.